Good afternoon. My name is Erin Colburn. I'm the Pre-Health Advising Coordinator for the College of Health Science at Boise State University. It's with great pleasure that I introduce two individuals who come from Pacific University in Hillsboro, Oregon, which is a program that we actually have quite a few students who end up pursuing professional careers after. So she is sharing information. They are sharing information about PA, PT, OT, pharmacy, and optometry. So I'm going to take away. Go ahead, Caitlin, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Biddulph. I am an assistant director of graduate admissions at Pacific, and I specifically work mostly with the College of Optometry, but I'm happy to also talk about some of our other programs today. But I'm going to introduce my colleague, Leah, who is here with me. So Leah, go ahead.
Sure. So my name is Leah Baldwin, and I've been with Pacific since 2009, and I work with our PA program and our dental hygiene program. Caitlin, did you want to go ahead and start with the general stuff? Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
So I'm going to pull up some slides. And I will just start with telling you a little bit about Pacific University in case you don't know much about us. So we were founded in 1849. We are a pretty even split with undergraduate students and graduate students, about 2,000 undergraduates and about 2,000 graduate students. Most of those graduate students that we have are in a health professions program. So we do have, as Erin mentioned, many health profession programs between our Hillsboro and Forest Grove campuses. So we will be talking about a couple of them with you today. We are a private liberal arts institution. So that means for our graduate programs, we don't have a preference if you are in state or out of state. And the largest campus is our campus in Forest Grove, Oregon. It's about 25 miles west of Portland. That is where the College of Optometry is located. About 15 miles west of Portland is our College of Health Professions campus, which is located in Hillsboro, Oregon. So that's where all of the other health professions that we're going to be talking about today are located. And then these are just the different schools that we have. So we do have a College of Arts and Sciences, Education, Business, Optometry, and our College of Health Professions, which we will be focusing on today. We will be specifically mostly talking about PA, optometry, OT, and PT. We do have other programs, including athletic training, psychology, dental hygiene, pharmacy, audiology, and healthcare administration and leadership. So if anyone has any questions about any of our other programs, you can reach out to me afterwards or ask during the presentation as well. And finally, so these are just a couple bullet points about Pacific in general. So we do have graduate and professional students from all over the country. As I mentioned, we are a private institution, so we do have students from all over the US. We also have international students in our programs. And because we have the different health profession programs all in our campus, there are quite a few opportunities to do some interprofessional learning, some courses, some case conferences, and some international travel with a couple of our programs. So we do try to make things cross-disciplinary when we can. We do have, our classrooms are side by side with our clinics. So the really great thing about our health profession education is you'll be, learning in the same building or right near where you'll be seeing patients and practicing in clinic. And all of our programs have a very strong emphasis on serving underserved populations. Our community outreach is a very important aspect of our curriculum in a lot of programs. So the focus on our health professions programs is really to make sure that people who need access to care can receive it. So we're very proud of our students and our faculty and our staff who really take that on board. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Leah to talk about physician assistant studies, and she can take it away.
Sure, thanks, Caitlin. So those of you who are interested in PA, would you in the chat just tell me what year you are at Boise State? So I have some idea of kind of how to tailor my little talk to you, and I'll get started. But so yes, we have a PA program. It started in 1997 and we graduated our first class in 1999. So we've been doing this for quite a while. We bring in a class of 60 students every year and they start in May. So depending on when you graduate, you might be able to start right away, or a lot of students will take at least a year, perhaps two, maybe more off between undergraduate and starting your PA program. For kind of the breakdown, as I'm sure you all are quickly finding out, PA programs are extremely competitive right now, and they have been for about the last decade or so. Now, most professions go through this kind of cyclical graph where we're very popular and then maybe not so much, and then we get popular again. And so right now we are at probably the top, and we are probably going to start coming down from that shortly, as about 50 to 60 new programs have come online in the past year or two. So we're going to start seeing the application numbers start to lessen, which is great. Being an applicant, it's great for the profession when applications are high, but it can be very challenging as somebody wanting to get into the profession. So regardless, you're probably going to be in a very competitive pool no matter where you apply to. This is certainly not just true at Pacific, but most PA programs are seeing numbers like this. So we regularly get around 2,000 complete applications for a class of 60 each year. So I see in the chat, it looks like both of you will probably be applying next year, which is great. Things shouldn't change too much from one year to the next. So you're welcome to use me as a resource throughout. This is just trying to whet your appetite a little bit here and tell you a little bit about our program. And then I'll invite you to explore us a little bit further, and I'll tell you how to do that. But in general, what we see out of our applications are high GPAs. That's probably the most important thing you can do to be competitive in any PA program is the GPA. Now, it's certainly not everything we look at is just GPA. It is a holistic process, and we are looking at everything else that will make you that compassionate clinician. But GPA does play has a high emphasis in our process, and that's true for most PA programs, unfortunately. So our GPAs range from I think this last year was a 3.78 to a 3.9. We are very thoughtful in the two GPAs we look at. We look at a science GPA. It's every science class, every biology, chemistry, or physics type of class that you have taken in your college career, as well as we look at the last 45 semester credits that you've taken. So basically, we're trying to figure out how are you like in the fundamental foundational topics you will need in order to succeed in the program, and what are you like as a student closest to when you'd be attending the program. So we are not actually looking at a cumulative over the course of your 4, 5, 6 years of undergrad. We're only looking at those two GPAs. Every PA program is going to be different in which GPAs they look at, so that's something to kind of keep in mind. Average age is 27. That has actually come down from 30. For years, we had an average age of 30 because the PA profession in general has been considered a second profession. And so we typically see students who are out in the healthcare field. They are EMT, paramedics, medical assistants, CNAs, all sorts of different types of professions. And then they decide they want to move forward. And then they start turning their attention to PA. We are seeing that students at a younger age, high school, college now have been exposed to the PA profession and now know that they want to do that and are working towards that goal much earlier. So we're seeing that average age come down. We definitely have students who are 22, 23 come into the program. But we also, on the flip side, have the 30 to 40-year-olds as well. So that's why the average age does tend to stay relatively high. And as Caitlin said, we have no state residency requirements. We're a private institution. We get applications from all over the nation. And this class that just started this past May 2021, we actually have a Canadian in as well. So that was exciting for us. Caitlin, you're welcome to move forward. Thank you. So let's talk just a little bit about the program before Caitlin moves on with all the other ones. Most PA programs are split into two areas, the didactic and the clinical phase. That's true for us. We are 27 months in length, so just over that 2 years. The didactic portion is roughly the first half. It's about 13 to 14 months, and the clinical rotations are the next. What's different for us, for our programs, is the way we structure that didactic curriculum. So instead of taking one semester and learning pharmacology for the entire body and being assessed on it at the end of the term, we break everything down by system. So we have a systems-based approach, and it's all organized around organ systems. So an example of this would be the class comes in on Monday, and they're going to start the cardiology module. And they start with anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, pathophysiology, the lab tests for that, the preventative medicine for that, the evidence-based medicine for that, everything for cardio. They work on that for 2 weeks, they're assessed on it, and then they move forward into the next system, which might be gastroenterology. And then they start all over again with the anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, everything for gastro are assessed on it and then move forward into the next system. So it's a building block approach to learning the medicine of the human body, which we find our students have great success with that. We've been doing that for 13, 14 years. And we find that that works really well for students learning in that capacity, as opposed to trying to learn everything at once and in multiple classes. The average for each module is about 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, you're switching systems and you're constantly bringing it back to that whole patient, because as we know, all of the systems are connected. So they methodically put out all of those modules to make sense, so that you're not studying something that really depends on another system more so than you know about yet. So that you're doing that all throughout that first portion. It is a pass-fail curriculum, so you either pass the module or you don't. If you don't pass, you get to study all over the weekend. You come back Monday and you take the exam again with the hope that you pass that time and can continue on with the rest of the class into the next module. We have a ton of group work within our PA program. So as you probably already know, PA is a team-based approach to medicine, and we want to reflect that in the classroom. So we have a lot of group work within the class. As I've already mentioned, it's pass-fail. So we are truly trying to create a cohort who are going to help them each other through the program, get out to graduation, and hopefully network after graduation as well. And so there are not only group projects that you do throughout, but you also do group testing. So we do individual tests, and then before you know the results, you go into a group test. And depending on how well you do on that group exam, points can go back to your individual exam as well. And so there is an incentive to work well with your group and to make sure everybody knows the same type of materials and really create a bond with your class. Once the class is complete with all of those modules, they then go out onto clinical rotations. Clinical rotations are, for most PA programs, are going to be about 6 weeks in length. We are known as a travel program. So the vast majority of time is spent outside of Oregon and going nationwide to different rotations. It is not possible for students to stay in one location to do all of their rotations. They have to travel. The clinical team will meet with each student beforehand and talk to them about where are your hubs. Perhaps Idaho might be a hub for you, or another state might be a hub, and they will do their best to try and get as many rotations as possible around those hubs for you. But their number one priority is making sure you rotate and have the experiences you need to, and that they are teaching experiences for you, right? So they're matching you with preceptors that are going to challenge you. And so those are their priorities versus the geographic constraints. So at the end of any PA program, you take something called the PANCE, which is the PA National Certifying Exam. And that allows you to get that C after your PA. So you are PA-C. And this then allows you to apply for licensure in any state that you want to practice. And frequently, PA applicants focus on the PANCE pass rate of each program. And by accreditation, we all have to post that. And we are well above the national average every year. This year, for the class that graduated in August 2021, it was 100% first-time taker pass rate, which we're very proud about. But what we're more proud about is that we don't teach to the PANCE. We're teaching to create compassionate clinicians. But in order to be that compassionate clinician, you have to pass the exam. So we acknowledge that, and we feel like we've found a really nice mix of that. Our 5-year average is 98% first-time takers, and the national average for that same figure is 95%. So we are above national average. We're very proud of our students. So I know that there are students on here who are interested in PA. I'm happy to field a couple of questions if they're quick right now. Otherwise, I know Caitlin wants to move on. I'm going to put in the chat a link to how you can learn more. So this is our contact us page, and on there we host virtual information sessions, and they are an hour to an hour and 15 minutes in length, and it's me talking again, and I go into much more in depth into the program as well as admissions, and it should answer the bulk of your questions. I do that probably twice a month between now and July. So feel free to go on there, check those out. You're welcome to attend at any time, even if you're not applying this year. I'm happy to have you in there. And if you just have individual questions, you're welcome to reach out via email, and I will put that also, it's on the PowerPoint there. So feel free to reach out to me via email at any time. I haven't seen any questions yet.
Leah, I have a quick question, if you don't mind. You mentioned that the admissions process is holistic. I was wondering if the process of assigning interviews was holistic, or if that was more like mathematical, and then from the interview standpoint, things are now holistic.
So the whole process will be holistic. So we will be looking at academics, we'll be looking at patient care experience, we'll be looking at letters of recommendation, essays, everything that you submit, we will take into consideration.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, from there we'll choose to interview. And then at that point, it resides with the interview. So the data that you provide gets you to the interview, and then the interview is what gets you into the class. So practicing those interviewing skills is going to be really key, making sure that you are able to express the message of why PA and why whatever institution you happen to be interviewing at. Hopefully it's at Pacific. And you talk about why Pacific and why PA, and you have that message down pat.
Gotcha, thank you. And then also, I saw on the website that there's a 1,000 hour requirement for patient care hours. What would you say is sort of a reasonable range for PCE that would be required to be a competitive applicant, assuming a strong GPA and other aspects?
So our average for the incoming class tends to always hover right around 4,000 hours, which 2,000 hours is 1 year's worth of full-time work. So about 2 years. Now that's an average. We have PTs who want to be PAs, and they've been a PT for 10, 15 years. They can greatly skew that average. So about a quarter to a third of the class comes to us with 1,000 to 2,000 hours. So it's very possible to be competitive with 1,000 hours, just as much as with 4,000 hours.
And that's, you said that was people that were admitted or people that applied?
Admitted. So about a quarter to a third of the class comes with between 1,000 and 2,000 hours to us. The average for the entire class is about 4,000 hours.
Gotcha. Thank you.
On our website, we have a list of common experiences that will work, and kind of this what we look for in job descriptions and what we don't accept and do accept. So that's a good starting point. If you have any questions about your personal experiences or an experience that has been offered to you, you're welcome to email me, and I can usually guide you in the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else?
What would you say makes the Pacific University PA program special?
So it's definitely the way we structure our curriculum. Most PA programs are not doing that systems based yet. We are frequently counseling with programs that want to start that, but that isn't the norm yet for PA education. So that one our nationwide rotations, like I talked about. A lot of PA programs have localized rotations. We want our students to experience healthcare in a variety of settings, and that includes different geographic areas in the US, as healthcare is different in every geographic region. So we want them to experience that. We personally have a strong emphasis in rural health. And so we actually have a rural healthcare track for students if they wish. And we also have an emphasis in serving the underserved, whether it be rural or not. So about 25% of our graduates go into serving in an underserved site, and that's twice as many as the national average. So that's something that if students don't come to us with that already built in as a value, we hope that they leave with that value and continue that throughout their career. So those are probably the biggest things. But again, I do that virtual information session. So those students who are interested in learning even more, please feel free to join me on one of those. And any advisors, I'm happy to answer questions for you all as well at any time. All right. Thank you, everyone. Oh, do you have another question?
That's okay. I can save it for another time. So thank you so much, Leah, for coming and participating. Students that are pre-PA, if you feel like you got what you needed from us, that's great. I would love to have Caitlin share with the advisors some of the other programs and talk a little bit about those. And I always have the best questions for our students. So thank you so much, Leah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Leah.
All right, Caitlin.
All right.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I will take it away for some of the other programs. So I'm going to start with optometry just because that's the one that I work with the most on a daily basis. So the optometry program is a Doctor of Optometry program. It's 4 years. Our class size is usually around 95 students per year. So you'll be graduating with the OD degree, Doctor of Optometry. I'll start, similar to Leah, I'll start with some of our admissions information. I know this is something that sort of always gets asked right off the bat, and let's share it before we dive into some other stuff. So we usually get between 400 and I want to say like 440, 450 applications per year. For the last class that entered in August 2021, we interviewed 267 applicants. A little bit different the way that we do our optometry admissions than the PA admissions. So your written application will get you in the door. And then if you're invited to interview, you will interview with us. The admissions decisions from there are not solely based on the interview. What we do for our optometry admissions process is we have certain members of the admissions committee who are reading the online applications. And then other people will interview applicants. And we do that, it's called a closed file interview. So the people who are interviewing an applicant have never seen their online application before. So they don't know the GPA, they haven't read the essays, the letters of recommendation. All they know about someone who they're interviewing is their first and last name and the city and state where they're coming from, because that's on their name tag. They don't know any other pieces of information. So we really want to use the interview to make sure we're really just getting to know you. And then after the interview process, the whole admissions committee meets together and discusses all applicants before admissions decisions are made. So the people who read the online application will talk about that. The people who did the interview will talk about that. And then we sort of put those two halves together to make a whole and then make a decision from there. So it's a little bit more of a elaborate review process, if you will, for optometry. We look at 3 different GPAs. So Similar to PA, it is very much a holistic review process, and that's both with the online application and then taking the interview into consideration. We do look at 3 different GPA calculations though. So we do look at cumulative GPA. That's one that we look at. Last year, our incoming classes cumulative GPA was a 3.44. The other one that we look at is science GPA. So pretty much anything classified as a science course. Biology, physics, chemistry are the main ones, and then sort of all of the branches off from there. Every institution codes their classes a little bit differently, but if it's a science, you can expect that it will factor into that science GPA. Last year, our incoming class, their science GPA was a 3.41. And then we also look at the third GPA is last 45 semester credits. So again, that is, the last 45 credits you've taken. If you're taking, a relatively standard course load, that's, the last year and a half to 2 years-ish of classes that you've taken. We look at that, as Leah mentioned, just because we think that your more recent coursework is going to be a bit more indicative of how you'll do in optometry school rather than courses you might have taken 4 years ago. So that last 45 is generally higher. Last year, that last 45 average was a 3.59 for our incoming class. You can see our breakdowns. Our average age is about 23, so a little bit younger than PA. Most of our students, or a lot of our students, do come in either straight from university or they'll take a gap year and then come in. Because it is a 4-year program, I think students want to get started a little bit sooner just because you are in school for another 4 more years. Also, something to note, we do not require that applicants have a bachelor's degree when they enter. There is the option to come into the Doctor of Optometry program as what we call a BS option, so Bachelor's of Science option. There's a couple of additional prerequisite requirements you will need to have done, but it means that, if you meet those, you can come in without a bachelor's degree, and your first year of courses in the Doctor of Optometry program, as long as you successfully pass them, they will actually count to sort of rounding out your bachelor's degree. So after your first year, you'll receive a Bachelor's of Science in Vision Science from Pacific University. And then after your 4th year, you receive your Doctor of Optometry degree. So that is an option. We have probably about 10 to 15 students who come in every year who do not have a bachelor's degree. And our students come from really all over. So last year, we had 34 different states represented, plus Canada, and we also had a student from China who started the program. So there are not many optometry programs in the country. I believe right now there are 23. So students generally travel a little bit further away from home, depending on where they're from, to attend an optometry program, just because there aren't as many of them as a lot of the other health professions.
And I believe Karma Castro is at your
program
this year. And I believe
she is.
Jennifer Lamar chose you for next year.
Yes. So yeah, every year, we have applicants and students from Boise State. So it's always really nice to have that connection as well. And we're pretty close. We're probably the closest optometry program to you. So I know it makes us fairly popular if you do want to stay close to home. So similar to Leah, I'm always happy to help answer individual questions via email, or you can, we also do information sessions. We'll start those in around May. But yes, we generally have a couple students applying every year. So it's nice to see that connection live on for sure. Oh, sorry. And then I'll just go into a couple of highlights about the optometry program. So our optometry program is incredibly student-centered and collaborative. So this is something that you'll see as a theme throughout all of our programs at Pacific. As a university and as an institution, we are just a very student-focused mindset. In the College of Optometry, you know, it's really important for us to get that student input in everything that we do. So we do have students who are on all of our committees within the College of Optometry. So we have students on the admissions committee, and they are, you know, reading applications and participating in interviews. They have an equal vote to all of the faculty members. That's the same for, you know, the curriculum committee, the academic program and standards committee, the dean's council. We've had a COVID task force for the last 2 years, so there's students on that. It's really important for us to get that student feedback. And we've been around for a very long time. We're one of the oldest colleges of optometry in the US. This is our 76th year as a College of Optometry. So we've had a lot of opportunity to sort of tinker with our curriculum. We definitely it seems like we're adding new electives almost every year that students can take. Similar to PA, we absolutely do not teach to the board exams, but we have found that our students are incredibly successful on the national board exams. And I think that's two parts. One, you know, we think our students are incredible and they're the best, but also, you know, we have had a lot of opportunity to sort of round out that curriculum and make adjustments as needed. And we do put a big emphasis on student success. So yes, we are incredibly proud of our students for being above the national average on the board pass rates, but that's not the only way we measure student success. And we, you know, part of it is we really just want our students to know how to be successful even before they come to the program. So, you know, all of our incoming students are set up with a big sibling who is an upperclassman in the College of Optometry, who will be your peer mentor. You have a faculty mentor who's assigned to you that you'll meet at orientation. Concurrent degree options. We also have a pretty unique opportunity if students would like to pursue a concurrent master's degree while they are doing their Doctor of Optometry degree. They can do that. We have 3 options: a Master's of Science in Vision Science, a Master's of Education in Vision Function and Learning. So that's primarily for pediatric people who want to work in pediatrics, and also MBA, so Master's of Business Administration. You can do those at the same time. It does add about 2 classes per week to your curriculum. And then for people interested in optometry, you may or may not know that every state has a different scope of what optometrists can and cannot do. Oregon, we're really lucky. We have a very broad scope of practice. So optometrists can, you know, prescribe oral medication. They can do lesion removals as long as they don't require a suture. They can do injections. So it's really great for our students because you get that practice on real people while you are here before you go out to your externships and before you graduate. And I'll, you know, mention again, all of our programs at Pacific really do focus on community outreach. So if that is something that you are interested in, or as Leah said, you know, maybe you haven't had a whole lot of experience with community outreach in undergrad, but it's something you're interested in, you will definitely get that opportunity while you are in the program. So for optometry, it's built into the curriculum. You're actually required to do at least 3 outreach events per year. Most of our students do significantly more than that. I think, I don't know the numbers for last year. The year before, our students logged about 3,500 volunteer hours. So very impressive. And we have 6 different eye clinics in the Portland metro area that students will be rotating through while they are here in their 3rd year. And then in their 4th year, it's completely on an externship based rotation. So you'll do 4 12-week rotations all over the country. We have about 125 different sites all over the US, Canada, and then at the moment, 2 international locations, 1 in Germany, 1 in Japan. So your first 3 years are a mixture of, lecture and lab and clinical based education in Oregon. And then your 4th year is fully doing rotations. So that's a little highlight about optometry. Do you have any questions for me on this before I just quickly highlight some of the other programs?
What makes your program special?
Yeah, really good question. So I think a couple of things. One, we don't do anything based on a competitive or like GPA basis. So some other optometry programs, and it is fairly common that it's like the person in the class who has the highest GPA, they get to pick their externship site first. And then the person who's second gets to pick second. And then it goes down the list. So if you've still passed all of your classes, but you do have a lower GPA, you kind of get the last pick of everything. We personally just don't like that approach. We want our students to be really collaborative with each other instead of competitive. So nothing we do is based on class rank or GPA. To select the clinics and the externship sites, it's sort of done on a lottery basis. So you say, your first and second choices for the different time slots. And, let's say you want to go to the VA in Honolulu for rotation number 1, and there's 3 spots. If 3 people put their name down, fantastic, you all get to go. If 4 people put their name down, those 4 names get put in a hat, mixed up, picked out. The first 3 get to go. That 4th person will put their name on their second choice. So, that collaborative environment is huge for us, as well as our 6 different eye clinics. Again, every optometry program will structure their clinical education a little bit differently. Some schools do have one really large clinic that's in their College of Optometry building, which is really convenient because you are in the same building. You don't have to leave. For us, we have 6. So one of them is in our College of Optometry building. The other 5 are in other little cities and towns in the Portland metro area. I think that is really beneficial for students because you get to see a pretty diverse patient population before you even go out onto your externships. It does mean you do have to do a little bit of traveling in between, Forest Grove and Portland or Beaverton or Hillsborough or, wherever the clinic is. So it's sort of our philosophy that the benefits outweigh the kind of inconvenience of traveling sometimes, but at least you get that diverse clinical experience before you even go out to your externships, which is pretty unique.
Anybody else have any questions for Caitlin about optometry before we move on? Okay.
All right.
We could probably zip through these ones a little bit, but
yeah, so I'll go pretty quickly through these, and then I do have the email contact information of the specific program counselors in here. If there's any questions from you or any of the students. So physical therapy is another one of our pretty large programs. It's a doctor of physical therapy degree. It's a 3-year program, and the class size is 50 students every year. So again, here are the admissions numbers for the most recent class. 684 applications received. They interview about a third. They are looking at 3 different GPAs and PA or PT. So they look at cumulative, which is all of the credits you've taken, prerequisite GPA, and then they also look at science GPA. The average age, similar to optometry, is 23. So a lot of people, do choose to do physical therapy kind of right out of school, or, take a gap year or two. And they have 10 states represented. So again, no preference to students in Oregon. There are a decent amount of PT programs in the country. So people don't tend to travel as far if they don't want to go to a physical therapy program. But those are some application numbers. They do the same process as all of our other health profession programs that we've talked about. So it is a holistic review process. And their interview structures a little bit more similar to optometry, whereas, you could possibly be invited to interview after your online application is received. And then after your interview, all of the decisions are made once those two pieces of the puzzle are put together. And then some highlights of the PT program. You do 39 weeks of clinical internship training. So it is a really great opportunity to have a lot of hands-on clinical experience. And they do evidence-based curriculum and a capstone project. So I would say that's a huge highlight or draw to the PT program, is you do get to do that capstone and focus on some professional development while you're in the program. So it's not just didactic and clinical based, but they definitely weave in, for that capstone, you choose an area that you want to focus on. And then you can, take it and run with it. So every PT student will have, a little bit of a different focus. You don't need to know coming into the program what you would like to do your capstone on, but it gives you a really good opportunity to make connections in the field as you are, doing that capstone. And then you are doing your clinical rotations as well. So Andrea is the contact person for the physical therapy program, and her email is a little bit cut off there, but it's Andrea Leibarger at pacificu.edu. So their applications will open over the summer, and they'll soon, I believe they open on June 1st and they close at the end of October every year. And then occupational therapy, for those who are interested in it, it is also a 3-year program. Our class size is 40 students, and we do a Doctor of Occupational Therapy degree. So for the most recent class, that's a typo, it should say fall 2021. The average GPA is around a 3.65. They put an emphasis on the last 45 credit GPA, and they do strongly recommend a last 45 credit GPA of at least a 3.4. It's not required, but it is strongly recommended for the occupational therapy program. Other than that, again, similar to the other programs, it is a holistic review process.
Okay. What makes occupational therapy special from Pacific?
Sorry?
What do you think makes occupational therapy program at Pacific special?
Yeah, so I think, one of them is the interprofessional education that a lot of the occupational therapy students do, and the way that they structure their curriculum. So it's similar to PA, where it's systems-based. Occupational therapy isn't systems-based, but it's very sequential and developmental. So your courses are very much like more quick building blocks on each other as you're going through the OT program. And you also have the opportunity to do a capstone with your OT degree as well, which is fairly unique. So, with all of our health professions programs, again, fairly similar in the emphasis on sort of well-rounded learning and, evidence-based clinicals and things like that. And John Eric is our contact info or our admissions counselor for the OT program. His email is johneric@pacificu.edu. And then if you want to hear, I just have a couple of sort of general tips for anyone going into the health professions and sort of what we look at for all of our programs at Pacific. As I said, all of our programs are very holistically done admissions wise. So one key part of that is your academics. One key part of that really is going to be your passion and your knowledge and your understanding of the profession as well as the school. So definitely, do a little bit of research on the programs before you go into the interview. And then communication is really important because in a health professions career, you're going to be interacting with patients. So that interview does play a huge piece into the admissions process because the faculty members and the students and the people on the admissions committee really just want to see that you would be able to effectively communicate with a patient in clinic. So that's incredibly important as part of the application process. So these are just more general. We've talked about a lot of these. So GPAs, the prerequisite classes you've taken, your load of your classes, something for all students to sort of be thinking about as they're planning out their progression and their time while they're in their undergraduate study. Passion, as I talked about, you can show it through your volunteering or shadowing hours, your essays. If people are struggling to get actual in-person experience somewhere, even doing informational interviews is a really good way to learn more about a health profession program. Or even if you're sort of trying to decide between, OT and PT and AT, and you don't really know the difference, do a couple of really quick 10 to 15 minute informational interviews with, those different providers, and it will give you a good sense of what the work is and what, a day-to-day experience might be for those clinicians. And then, as I said, communication. So our first introduction to people is through that essay, and the second is through an interview. So it sort of ties everything together that's, within your academics and your letters of recommendation and your essays and your experiences. Definitely get some help with your essay writing in terms of, a proofreader or practice your interviewing. It will go a long way just being comfortable talking about yourself. So that is it. I know I've sort of flown through everything. Do you have questions for me, or I can also just, put my email.
Well, I would like to open the floor for anybody who's in the room to ask questions.
I don't have a question, but I just have a compliment. I love the structure, the way that you did the building block, especially with the PA, the way that she was explaining that. That was really impressive.
Yeah, it's something that we've really focused on in the last maybe 10 or 15 years. It just seems like a more intuitive way of learning. So we're building that into all of our programs.
It was, at first it was kind of, I was like, okay, you're going to have all book work, the didactic, and then you're going to move into your clinicals where, like here with the students, they do them kind of hand in hand. And from what I'm understanding is you do all of your didactic and then go right into clinicals and practice what you book learned.
Yeah. Thanks for the compliment.
Anybody else? Well, I do appreciate your time. I know you feel like you maybe gone through them fast, but I think if anything, you gave the students some information and a face, right? Like, okay, there's this person that exists and can help. And I do know that a lot of students gravitate to your programs, partly because of where it's located. But it's nice to have some more information to be able to go with you know, we can look at websites, but, you know, having a little bit of an understanding of what each program has to offer is very
Yes.
supportive. So I appreciate your time, and I always love this opportunity to do that. And, you know, COVID sucks, but at the same token, it's opened up some opportunities for us to not have to have you travel necessarily and allow you to share these programs with our students. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, and I'll just share, you know, I know sometimes during the application process, things can get just really overwhelming. So I can speak on behalf, I mean, certainly for me and the rest of our admissions counselors. If there are questions, please don't feel, you know, please don't have students hesitate to reach out to the admissions person by email. A lot of times you'll get an answer and support a lot faster than you will like trying to find information on a website or through the application system. So that's what we're here for. I would rather have someone ask and form that relationship with them rather than have someone struggle. So absolutely, you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording.
All right.